Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the high-grade AMX 101 GALLUSS-J from Mobile Suit Gundam Double Zeta. Now, simultaneously getting a kit that is from Double Zeta and a neo-zeon kit in this sort of style is absolutely fantastic. These sort of over-the-top Zeta and Double Zeta enemy suit designs really don't get as much love as they should, so it is nice to see a brand new release. As usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan, where this would have cost $20 or around €17, and link is down there in the description. Now let's check it out. So winding back in time to the build, and once you get this box bust open, the high-grade GALLUSS-J comes with 7 runners of plastic, which is a little less than you'd expect from a fairly sizable neo-zeon suit, as well as some stickers and some yellow beam effects. The color separation is quite nice, especially the A runner with a whole ton of colors on it, and overall the kit is very nicely color separated. Just to kind of break it down, it is extremely nice from the front, but there is a lot of stickers for a lot of the kind of detailed colored aspects in the vents and around back. We are missing some colors still, but overall in the end it's quite fantastic. And as for the details about the build, as usual, I will be starting from the legs up. These are some nice, angular, very accurate to the silhouette legs right here. There's a lot going on. Like I mentioned, there is a little bit of issues with the color separation. Now, I did use some stickers on it, but I didn't really like them at all. I'll talk about them a little bit more later on. They're a little bit too complex on recessed areas where they don't really fit too great, and they do obscure some of the detail. Otherwise, you've got some nice articulation, a nice knee bend, including this cool little armor gimmick around back, ankle, and hip articulation going on in here too. This builds up with the usual kind of waist joint, which is 3 pieces. We then build up the knee joint, which is just a single piece, so not the usual double that we'd see, but we still do have a bit of a double joint in here. You add on the cool little armor segment, which moves independently like so, and this then starts attaching into the armor. So no full inner frame in here, but I will mention not a single polycap in the build at all. You keep layering up the armor, then you've got these knee sections right here. Now on these knee sections, the first leg I did actually try sticking on some of the stickers, but I wasn't digging them. They didn't look too good, so I stopped for the rest of the suit. We got some more armor to throw on, some vents around back, again, detailing fantastic, color separation a little lacking. Next up, you have to build the foot, a whole bunch of pieces attached together like so. I will mention there is no articulation in it, it's just really solid. You build an ankle joint, and you use that then to attach the foot onto the leg, and it's from here that you actually differentiate the 2 legs from each other. So you just build the orientation a little bit different. All that really differs between the 2 legs is the front panel of armor. And there we go, that is the leg built. Again, looks fantastic, just missing some of the color separation in some of the thrusters. Moving up the build now to the waist, and we do have a little bit of articulation in here. Again, the same sort of color separation woes to some degree, but stickers are included. We've got one big swinging butt flap. The front flap can move as well. We've got some more parts to attach onto this later, which is the piping, which is double ball jointed. We'll talk about that when we're talking about it. We do have 2 big side skirting armors that if you actually move them around too much, they do kind of leverage themselves off, but overall, looking good. Overall, the build here is quite simple. You do attach the hip pegs right on into the central unit. This is a kind of up and down moving joint, a fairly simple one, but it is effective. When you've got both pieces of armor attached on, you can see it moves up and down ever so slightly to rearrange that joint. Then we've got the butt flap, which is just one big piece. No nice under armor on this, sadly. Attaches on via kind of C-clip, locks into position with this part. You build up the front armor out of multiple pieces like so. The gray section here does require a sticker. I left it off for now. This pops onto the front, and then we've got the 2 big old side skirts which pop on via simple ball joints. When it comes to the torso in here, this is mainly just a big old block. You've got a little bit of articulation on these flaps up top, which can move up and down. There's a little bit of pivoting forward and back in these 2 side segment units here, but they don't move too much. And there is an ab crunch in here too as well, but it doesn't really do an insane lot either. When it actually comes to building this up, first off, inside the waist itself, we do have one of those Zeta-style forward-facing ball joints for the ab crunch. This locks into position though, so it's not loose like the high-grade Zeta Revive. Neck joint to the upper body, then you start working on the kind of shoulder joint torso sections. These have moving flaps inside of them, the shoulder joint cuffs, an extra bit of armor pops on, we've got a thruster around back which is color separated with a red vernier inside of it, and then you add in some more color separated red and dark green parts. These then attach into the body from the back, with a little bit of pivoting movement, not a whole lot. The back section then attaches in like so. A little waist section locks everything into position. A chest piece attaches down from the front, as well as color separation for the cockpit in 2 pieces. Next up in here is the arms. These are somewhat symmetrical. This is the interesting one, the one with the big old red hand. When it comes to articulation, the shoulder armor can move. We've got rotation, a bend at the elbow, in the actual elbow, and a ball joint for the hand, as well as an interesting bit of a locking mechanism, which I will talk about in the actual review itself. There is some parts separating transformations to the arms. Again, we'll talk about that later. The elbow joint in here is just a 1-point bend. You attach on some detailing, including these side green sections. Upper armor cuff, this piston section which attaches in like so. This is what parts forms later on for the longer punching arms. Up in the shoulder then we've got a 1-point joint for the shoulder with a ball joint on the end, as well as a C-clip section for attaching on the shoulder armor. A bit of armor pops on over that. Start adding in some color separation in red into the dark green sections for the shoulder, upper and lower and upper. Big piece of armor attaches onto that, and that all adds on to that C-clip section in that upper arm. From here, that is when the two arms diverge. This section of armor then attaches onto the rear of the arm. Now, I will mention this is a whopper of a seam line on it. Usually I don't mind these sort of things too much. I think they're fine, but this one was a little rough. I just hit it with some medium grit sandpaper and then some of gun primers balancers. Then it just pretty much took that out entirely in about 2 minutes flat. You pop some piping into the rear of the arm. This is actually the locking mechanism for that big red hand. This attaches onto the rear of the arm. The big hand in here almost rivals an old school master grade with a moving thumb. We do have swapping aspects for the various holding or non-holding fingers, and then this all attaches together, the 3 pieces that we made, and that is the arm complete. The only difference with the other arm is you attach on a different hand and a slightly different back of arm. Jumping around to the backpack now, this would be the least color separated aspect because the inside of all of these verniers here is meant to be in an orange. No stickers are included, but not a hard thing to really pull off. Besides that though, we've got a couple of moving segments on it. For the most part, it's fairly chunky and a block. I will mention it does have the standard 2-peg backpack adapter. Building this up involves adding on a thruster onto this grey section, which is nicely detailed. This slides into the main body of the backpack. You build up a thruster with a flap section like so. This attaches into the same main unit, and then it all closes in together like so. 2 little red sub thrusters attach up top. Then you build up the main thruster sections, just a ball joint, into a vernier, into a little bit of a cuff section of armor, and these slap on either side of the backpack, and it is complete. Last up in here then is the head, which is a little bit of a combination of impressive and disappointing. Visually, it is very impressive. It's a very nice looking head with that double Zeta style and a lot of nice detail. The disappointing aspect to it I find is the eye. The mono eye doesn't actually move on a little bit of a pivot. You have to choose stickers, and you have 2 options to kind of build inside of the box. As for the actual build, a green piece attaches onto the main grey section with the piping. At this point then you have to decide what stickers. You've got a sticker with a mono eye pointing directly forward, and then you've just got a plain black sticker and a pink circle to decide where you want to actually put the mono eye positioned. So it's an interesting option, but a little bit low tech. This then pops into the head, some red detail around back, a big old blade antenna on top. I did take the safety knob off of it, and at this point right here I did actually notice in the manual that apparently you can move this mono eye side to side. So there is movement in here, so scratch what I just said. Lastly, we've got this tiny pipe on the smallest ball joint I have ever seen, which attaches into the chin, just like this. And finally, there you go. There is the high-grade GALLUSS-J complete. You just attach all the bits together like you normally would. It feels solid enough. I did have a little bit of an issue with the arms falling off at the upper arm. If you have this, that means you actually haven't pushed the cuff of the upper arm armor on far enough. Once you do, they'll actually lock up into the shoulders permanently and not fall off. Overall, impressive looking, extremely unique. Does rely a little bit too much on stickers, so you might want to do a little bit of black and red detailing yourself. Moving on into the accessories, first up we have the energy gun. I will mention the color accuracy on this is not too bad. It's all in grey plastic, but does need a couple of other colors. It does include some red stickers for these sections right here, these little missiles or whatever they are. Yup, it's a missile pod. Great detail here, but does get obscured by the stickers if you use them. That slides up into the main body, sandwiches into position like so. You pop on a barrel, attach a double jointed handle into the bottom of it, and there it is complete. This is a wild weapon. Finally then we've got a pair of beam sabers, just normal beams into handles, and that is it. Build complete. Let's check it out. So finally, there is the high-grade GALLUSS-J out of the box and just snapped together. Now, I didn't do anything with it in regards to anything like pan lines or anything like that. I might top up some bits in a minute, but overall, this does look phenomenal. I'm going to mention one thing right off the bat, though. And that is the included stickers. Now, these are the only two that I actually used because it was the first leg that I was working on. And as you can see, they kind of don't work too well. Now, if you really work pretty hard with your toothpick jutsu, you might be able to, well, you know, kind of squeeze them in where they need to go and kind of get a little bit of detail out of them. But you are really heavily covering over the nice detail inside of them. These are all required for a lot of the sections, like in here in these little kind of vent sections right here, around back on these extremely nicely molded thruster vents around back. Now, these are the kind of very nice details you would be obscuring with them. You could pop them on flat and there would just be kind of flat stickers on them, or you could try to kind of finesse them into the grooves, but they'll still have that kind of shiny finish unless you top coat the entire kit. Just wanted to mention that straight away. But with those stickers out of the way, when we're talking pure silhouette, Bandai has nailed it entirely with the high-grade Gallus-J here. A lot of the time, Bandai does kind of go for a more standard high-grade look when it does come to some mobile suits. But here I felt they kind of towed the line very nicely. It does look modern high-grade, but at the same time has that awesome over-the-top Zeta and double Zeta flair. It almost looks a little bit shrunken in the neck and head area, a little bit recessed downwards in the way that it needs to look. Overall, this looks incredible. The shape, size of everything is so nice. Again, there is some color aspects which could do with a bit of topping up. I would recommend maybe hitting some of the armor panels, especially on the shoulders, all around the waist, and maybe on the backpack with a little bit of gray, just so you have that nice double layered premium look. But overall still, this looks exceptionally nice. So slapping the high-grade Gallus-J down side by side with the actual art from the show. As you can see, the proportions have been tweaked a little bit to make it look a little more kind of typical high-grade, I guess modern chic looking. It's a little bit on the skinnier side, a little bit more elongated, and a little less squished than the actual art on the right. But again, this isn't always indicative of what it actually looked like in the actual anime. Physically, it looks pretty damn good. It's nailed the vast majority of the colors, but as you can see, it is missing some sub aspects in the thrusters on the crotch and the knees. Again, there are stickers included for all of these, so you can't really complain too much. They also have a great foundation inside of them for a bit of detail painting. Around to the back now, and everything I just said about the front applies to here as well. Overall, looking fantastic. The vast majority of the silhouette, the overall detail, it is all there, and it does look phenomenal. We are missing some colors, mainly what I thought was meant to be orange inside the verniers, but I assume this picture just looks a bit funny, and I think it's the exact same shade of red we see everywhere else on it. There are no stickers for these verniers, so you will have to paint them yourself, and we are missing a little bit of color down on the bottom there, but there is stickers included for those particular thrusters. Overall though, looking savage. When it comes to the detail on the Gallus-J right here, there's a lot of nice molded detail in here that's looking for a little bit of ink. So if you pen line this up, all of that will pop out. It's on the chest, arms, head, and even though it's not too crazy, there is still some nice molding here and there. When it comes to Gundam kits, Zeon or neo-zeon or bad guys in general tend to get the second class treatment. So we do have some seam lines here and there, and just like I showed in the build, there are some wicked mold lines on the back of the arms. However, there is a spare part for the left arm, well, the arm that's on its left right there, but it is technically its right arm. So if you don't have any experience cleaning up mold lines, well, you get a chance at failing, including the box, which is always nice. The dark green plastic in here does nub up a little bit, but this is normal for darker, more kind of solid plastics. I just recommend nipping them off at a bit of a distance and filing them down to make sure you don't get that. When it comes to the stickers in here, here is the sticker sheet, and as you can see, I haven't used much. These ones right here are just for the mono eye, which is inside of its head right there, and I haven't really used a lot of these because I'm kind of on the fence. In a way, I would like the color without actually having to paint it, just to kind of keep it in its original state, but at the same time, I still want the details, so I'm wondering if I will kind of struggle through it with a little bit of a toothpick and see if I can maintain that detail with the stickers attached. Anyway, as for what they're for, all the red and black ones there, those are for the kind of vents and thrusters all over the place. So that is the crotch, front, and rear of the legs. This gray one right here, this one's pretty wicked. This one's actually for using on the thumb. So the thumb is only meant to be half in red, half in gray, but it's all in red inside this box. And you need this to attach basically around the part that is closest to the hand. Lastly, these ones right here, these are the ones I did mention in the build once again, and these are for on the beam weapon, or should I say the energy gun. That is the missiles and the sight. Jumping now into the full 360-degree spin again, so you can see every bit of detail on this for yourself, just in case I forgot to mention anything. Overall, this looks incredibly nice. Again, your options in here for the color accuracy are stickers, or to actually detail up and paint the various parts that aren't color accurate. The colors you'll be needing is red, black, and a kind of mid-tone gray. However, overall this kit right here is a winner. It's a full polycap, free build, so it is rock solid, which is unusual. I remember back to the Orjarja, which was a little bit on the floppy droppy side. This is a far better beast than we would have seen with that particular kit. Again, the color separation in here is not 100%, but what we do have out of box is still spectacular. If you weren't too familiar with the design, you mightn't really even notice. You could throw some panel line or ink into the various different thrusters around the place, and that might be enough for you. Honestly, I think that might be where I'm going to be going. Just get them kind of darker inside, and that will be enough probably. Besides that, there's a lot of other panel lining details all over the place. The over-the-top double Zeta proportions on this are crazy. The legs look insane, the body's cool, the head gives me those nice Cubile or Hama vibes, and overall it's a very nice looking kit, and I'm always happy to get something with that nice Xeon flair, especially with that 80s Zeta or double Zeta sort of feel. Jumping now into the size comparison, there it is beside two standard sized high-grade Gundams. That is the high-grade RX-78-2 Revive on the left and the high-grade Gundam Mark II on the right. Next up there is the high-grade Zeta. Realize I don't actually own a high-grade double Zeta. What the hell is wrong with me? Grabbing some kits at random now. There's the high-grade Hyzak, high-grade Psycho Doga, high-grade G-Quax, high-grade Gundam Exia, high-grade G-Self, high-grade Gundam Barbatos, high-grade Gundam Ariel, and the high-grade Freedom Gundam. So now jumping on into the accessories, and here's everything that comes with the high-grade GALLUSS-J. What we're getting here, weapons-wise, is a pair of beam sabers and the energy gun, and besides that, it's a whole bunch of kind of swappable parts for various different aspects in the hand, arms, as well as in the chest. So when it does come to the hands in this, they are completely asymmetrical, which is always fun when it comes to the build and the overall mobile suit. The first one we have here is the right arm, which is your usual kind of high-grade Gundam kit hand. There is no alternate part for this, so it's always in this kind of standard grabby pose. So in universe, the GALLUSS-J right here is a little bit of an evolution of the Goof, so that's why we've got this alternate arm here with the finger cannons. So this is very different from the right arm. As you can see, we've got some red fingers. The detail on here is extremely nice. We do have a movable thumb round back, a little bit of a hollow point in it, and of course, the thumb does need a little bit of grey. Overall, it's very unique, and I will mention, as you've seen throughout the review so far, it is locked in position, but this is an option. So this right here is a kit that kind of has a whole bunch of kind of optional parts swapping aspects to it. They're not the most kind of user friendly in a way. In order to allow this hand to actually have full articulation, you need to remove the back armor section of it just like so, and inside of here there's a little bit of a kind of shift. So you take it from this position here, you remove it out, you move it upwards, and then just pop it in a little higher. This now removes these cables from attaching into the rear of the hand, giving it some articulation. So that does actually mean when you pop this armor panel back on like so, these two cables are not attaching up inside of the hand anymore, so you do have full rotation here, so you can move it around quite a bit. There's also a nice little bit of a locking mechanism here. You can push the ball joint all the way in like so, which kind of locks it to kind of rotating only, or pull it out and you've got that full ball joint range of motion, which is pretty cool. So next up in here, we've got what is referred to as the arm punch. It's kind of a, well, almost like a joke spring punching arm. On the top, there's the standard way it's been so far. On the bottom is what it looks like extended. So there's not a huge difference between the two, and it's a little bit of a parts formation to get it from one form to the other. In order to do that, just like we would have seen on the other arm, you pull off the rear section like this, then you're able to actually take the two piston bits away, attach on an optional part, which is a longer extended piston, take the hand you had, pop that on, and pop the elbow back on again, and this is the effect that it does. It's very simple, easy enough to do, but the parts formation is somewhat a little bit on the tedious side somewhat, especially when it comes to having to hold on to the parts at all times. I'll also mention that over time, kind of getting used to pulling the rear section off this arm and replacing the arm is getting a little bit simpler. So over time, it will kind of be second nature, but you know, having the parts always at hand can be a little bit on the awkward side. So you might be wanting to decide which parts you're going to leave on permanently. It is worth noting as well, we do have the parts included to do with this arm as well, but it's exactly the same sort of effect, except you do have some extended kind of wiring for around on the rear of the arm, so you can see the wires from underneath when it's extended. Speaking of arm alternate parts, we also have alternate fingers for this version of the arm, the one with the red fingers. All you do is pop off the fingers just like this, and then you attach on the curled version. So these are your standard holding hand style fingers just in the red color here. It's almost like a master grade with the movable thumb and the replaceable fingers in a kind of similar sort of way. So next up in here we've got some alternate parts for the chest. As you can see, one part has fallen out already, and this is kind of a thing that does happen, which I'll mention in a second. First off, we've just got these standard panels like so. The optional parts are the missile pods. In order to get these out, you just press on the top sections of these, and that pops the parts so they can come out easily. Then you just pop in the alternate parts. These are the missile pods. We'll mention only the missiles themselves are meant to be in red. The background here is meant to be black, so a bit of pen lining or a bit of painting should do this for you. No stickers included for this section. Now, we'll mention these can come a little bit loose, like I said. The reason for that is the blue or the light blue sections either side of the chest that these are actually attached into do have a seam line running down them. So when you're moving the arms in and out a bit, that seam line can open ever so slightly, which can loosen the parts. So they are a little bit of a loss risk if you're not careful. But as you can see right now, they're holding on pretty good because I squeezed in the arms. So the next weapons that we have in here are the beam sabers. So these are your standard beam sabers, just with a yellow blade. The handles are in a simple gray, so nothing too crazy, and all in one piece. So getting these into the hands is the usual way. You just slide them on into the hole. Now I will mention that getting this little beast right here into a pose isn't the most easy thing to do. It can get in some very nice poses, like this one right here, but actually trying to finesse it or eke it into them is a little bit awkward. It's got a lot of parts sticking out all over the place, like its shoulders, side skirtings that do get in the way a lot, and you might have realized by now that I have removed the pipe from the chin because it keeps falling off. I'll talk about that a little bit more when it comes to the articulation, but it's a tiny little ball joint into the bottom of the chin, and it just pops out a lot when you're actually moving the head around. But besides that, once you get used to the way that it does pose and the poses it can pull off, you should have a good time. When the beam sabers are not in use, just pop off the handles just like this, put the beams in storage somewhere, and we do have two choices. First up, we've got these almost very low-tech holes in the back armor right here. So all you have to do is slide them through either or both of these. The bottom one will restrict the kick out movement of the butt flap to some degree, so that is worth noting. The other option is you can actually attach them on in underneath these side skirting armors. It can be a little bit difficult to do with them attached, so I just popped it off. It just slides on into this little section right here. Simple, effective, but it holds them in well. When you pop it back on, this is what it looks like. So once again, two choices to pop them into. On the back, underneath, whichever one that you like. Or should I say, whichever two. So the next weapon we have in here is the energy gun, and this might be one of the most unique looking, well, rifles that I've ever seen with a Gundam model kit. It's super flat. There's a little bit of a seam running there. I can probably squeeze that a little bit more close, a little bit, yeah. Like I mentioned during the build, you do have stickers here for the little missile pod sections in there in red. From a distance, it actually looks fairly decent. We've got a shiny foil right there for the side, and we do have one little bit of a moving aspect down here, which is the handle. So this can swing down like so, or just stay at multiple positions like this. So simple but effective movement. It does have some hollow looking aspects in the sides of the handle, however, well, just on the one side, so I guess that's going to be to the rear. So when it comes to attaching on the energy gun, it can be a little bit on the awkward side because it's a two-hand attachment. So you need to pull off the fingers off the left hand, you need to take off the entire right hand, open it up sandwich style to get the main handle that doesn't move into it just like so. Then you pop it onto the Gallus just like this, and then you have to kind of finesse it into position in order to get the red fingers on to the other hand while everything is all lined up. It kind of only pulls off the one pose of this particular weapon. So this was a little difficult to do with my arm stretched out in front of a camera, but it's easy enough to do if you have it in close to you. It does involve a little bit of finessing just to get everything into the right position, and this right here is what you get once you do. So it's one wild gun, definitely. It's not like anything ever I've seen before on a Gundam model kit. It only really does this one pose like I mentioned. And all I can say is, one thing about this for definite, it is absolutely unique. So when it comes to the storage of this particular weapon, according to the manual, there doesn't seem to be any, so it's either in the hand or not on the mech at all. So finally now moving on to the articulation, and the usual kind of comment on the stability of the build. This thing is absolutely rock solid. It won't move a centimeter. Now some parts might pop off like the side skirts when moving it around, but that's about it because of the simple design and of course the good old law of the lever. Anyway, usual pose. Anyway, when it does come to the usual pose, there's a whole lot of awkward going on here in regard to all of the joints. Now, all of the joints and all the arms and all the bits are actually really good. There's just some odd aspects probably to do with keeping this visually accurate that make it a little bit awkward. Anyway, this right here is the pose that we get in the end. Even though this does have better articulation than this would actually let on. Also, this did pop on me, but yes, let's go through everything and talk about it a bit. So anyway, first up, we're going to be talking about the head. Now, the head can't really move around too much. As you can see, the little bit of a pipe does get in the way quite a bit inside of that compartment. It does have a bit of a ball joint, so you can kind of finesse it out, but a lot of the time it will pop off. So if you're actually posing this kit around, it's best to have this off so you don't lose it. Because once it's off, there's the head all the way down, all the way up. So as you can see, it's quite good. And the side-to-side articulation is really good as well. On top of that, we've got a very interesting mono eye in this kit. I thought at first it didn't move, but it actually does. Just moving it is a little bit awkward. You can actually just push it to the side you want it to look at. It actually works really well. It's super simple and effective. Moving down to the torso now, we've got the same sort of thing going on we had with the head. All we've got here is this. That is all. You don't even have side-to-side rotation. Once again, because of these pipes. These pipes are anchoring everything so it can't move. If you actually pop off these pipes, these are actually attaching the front skirting to the body. So now we actually do have articulation here, so you can actually move it around a whole lot more. It's not like a crazy amount more, but it does get immediately a lot more expressive all of a sudden without those pipes. So maybe you might want to modify yourself something a little bit more, well, movable. These flaps can move up and down just like so. Inside the main body, these flare out ever so slightly, but not a whole lot. When it comes to the arms, these are very complex. We've got this section inside of the shoulder. It's a ball joint then inside of that, giving you the full rotation and shoulder roll. The shoulder is not attached onto the arm, so it can move up like so on a C-clip. We do have a little bit of a joint here that allows the arm to raise up a little bit, but it's hard to access and doesn't give you a whole lot. There is the full rotation at the upper arm. It's a single point bend for the elbow. And again, a ball joint for the wrist, which you can also lock in position. So there's a lot of locked in position pipes on this kit. Quite simple around on the backpack. We've got a little bit of up and down on this thruster section. And the same goes with these. So they can move down like so, and then up like so. So just a little bit of movement. When it comes to the skirting armors, this is usually locked in position when those pipes are there, but when they're not, it can actually move around quite a bit. So you do have a little bit of this and moving around, and then a locking in position push. The side skirtings are just kind of usual ball joints. So you've got up and down, back and forward, and they do block the leg a little bit. So I'm going to whip them off just for now. We do have a moving mechanism in the legs, so they can push up like so, and then move down like that. If I pop them off, you can get a little bit of a nicer idea of that. So down, or should I say up, and then down, like so. Very, very slight. Not to forget, we do have a bit of a premium butt flap here, up and down only. When it comes to the legs without the side skirting, there it is all the way up to the front, so not so bad. There it is all the way out to the back, not too bad as well. And there is your knee bend. So it's a single point. No, is it single? Yeah, that feels like a single point bend. But we do have that nice little bit of recessing armor right there. That works out incredibly, incredibly well. Once you do pop the skirting armor on, this does get a little bit blocked, not too much, mainly towards the outside, but still, wow, that is still pretty damn good. The cutaway in the armor does very, very well. Next up then with the feet, so we've pivot down and up just like so. So quite a bit of movement there, especially for those nice flight poses. There is the side to side, so again, very nice. It's double jointed up here and down here, so you get a decent bit out of it. And there's the side-to-side movement. So overall, again, the articulation on this is incredibly good. It's just, like we saw in that usual pose, very, very limited by the funny little pipes that are on the kit. But overall, very nice. Side skirtings like to fall off. But if you want the full articulation out of this kit, you need to remove 3 pipes off of it. So anyway, that right there is it for the review of the high-grade GALLUSS-J, and all I can say is this is an impressive neo-zeon kit, and might be one of the best ones, if not the best one I have seen to date. Overall, this right here is X Gold tier. Now when it comes to the breakdown right there, first off aesthetically, this is fantastic. So much so that I did have to give it a half a point, mainly because this does pull off the double Zeta look so perfectly. Bandai definitely went for it. However, it does lose some points when it does come to color accuracy. Now this is not unusual when it comes to Zeon or neo-zeon kits because they don't get the same level as Gundams tend to, so by that metric, definitely, absolutely impressive, definitely. When it comes to the articulation on here, that's gold tier articulation, so 3 out of 5. Very, very nice. There is some locked away articulation behind some pipes, so just know that if you want more out of it, posability-wise, you will have to disconnect some bits. If you want it to look accurate, leave the bits on. What we've gotten here is very, very good. There is some parts that are a little bit on the limited side or blocked a little bit, but overall great range of motion all over the place. Great poses to be gotten as well. Accessories wise in here, there's nothing really too exciting. It's just beam sabers, a gun that does need some stickers, and a whole bunch of different bits for just changing stuff out. Nothing is really overly exciting. It does what it needs to do and not much more. However, there is some nice touches to it. If you want that extending punch, it's in here. Thoughtful aspects like the ability to lock or unlock the big old red hand, but overall, nothing too crazy. When it comes to the build on this, again, this is one of those things that's so unique that it needed that kind of half a point. It's not platinum tier when it comes to a build, but I think gold tier is a little too low. The actual build of the kit feels so nice, especially if you like double Zeta kits, neo-zeon kits, or Xeon kits. You don't really get nice builds too often. It's usually older, polycap based, kind of hollow, not too awesome kits. This is solid and builds up well, and it's a whole lot of fun. Totally, definitely deserving that extra half a point. So yeah, X gold tier, about as good as you can get when it comes to a neo-zeon double Zeta kit, so I highly recommend it. Anyway, as always, this video right here would not have been possible without those awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan. A link is down there in the description, and as always, I will see you next time. It wouldn't be the end of the video without special thanks to each and every single one of you guys for watching my videos, and special thanks to the channel members and the members over on Patreon, including Caleb, Engelhardt, Joe, RG59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.